Welcome everyone to episode 105. Before we kick off today's show, just another shout out to those of you who may have been planning to support the podcast on Patreon or who haven't even heard about my Patreon account. It is now up and running. I'm asking listeners to the show to become a patron of the show, basically, which means signing up a bit like Netflix to pay a monthly subscription of, I don't care, €1 is fine. The reason we're doing this is the kind of podcast industry is looking for ways that it can monetize itself. Right now, most podcasts are free and people expect everything on the internet to be free, which is kind of fine by me. And there really are only two ways to monetize podcasts. One is through advertising, which would mean that instead of this ad for my podcast, you would be getting an ad about some spurious product that I probably don't even believe in and that you probably certainly don't. It's also a way to protect the cottage industry nature of podcasts. My own podcast has been a labor of love for the past 3 years, and it does have running expenses attached to it. So independent podcasters are trying to find ways in which they can gain some revenue to contribute to operating costs, and this is what I am trying to do. If you can't afford to or have no real interest, that's okay too. The podcast will remain free and available to anybody who wants to listen to it. If you would like to contribute, and I would really like that, you can go to www.patreon.com/Seaniebee. That's Patreon, patreon.com/Seaniebee. And follow the instructions to become a patron. They'll ask you to give your credit card details and commit to a monthly subscription. Most of us will spend €2 a day or $2 a day buying a newspaper or a cup of coffee. I'm asking maybe if those of you listening could do £1 or €2 or whatever you can afford a month rather than a day, which would really help. The more patrons a podcast has, the more patrons seem to want to support it. So I'm initially trying to drive up numbers. I don't have many so far. I'm not even sure this thing's going to work. But if you're one of those people who believes that artists, musicians, podcasters, writers, whatever, who are trying to do something different in the area of monetization and you want to support them, this would be a great time to support A Pint with Seaniebee. The other thing I want to try and say before we start is I always had at the back of my mind the idea that this podcast series would also be of great interest to younger people who are trying to work out what they want to do with their life. A huge amount of my guests have done things differently. They've, in some cases, bucked the trends or bucked the advice, or I'm not going to say rebelled, had courage in their convictions from maybe an early age to plow their own furrow and march to their own drum. So one of the areas I'm focusing on right now is career guidance teachers in schools. If you know of anyone who's in that position, or if you are a teacher yourself, have a look at the podcast series as a whole. There's over 100 interviews with people who've led brave, creative, and interesting lives. And I think this could be a great resource for your students just to listen to and understand that there are many ways to getting through life than the traditional ones that society says we all must conform to. All right, that's enough from me. On to today's show. A guy called Ben Jones. He is in a company called Bull in a China Shop, which is named after himself. Ben is a guy who knows everything about the blockchain. The blockchain is something that's coming to computers and phones and the internet near you over the next while. It is considered to be a new way of encryption and data protection and protection of ideas, fixing fake news and policing the internet. It's kind of a complicated thing. I guess a lot of people here listening to this podcast will have heard of it, but Ben does quite a good job at trying to explain how it works and why it is very important. Ben's also had a great life. He used to be a skier when he was a kid. He's got some great insights into life itself and the future and whether we're going to have chips in our head and should we have chips in our head and robotics and artificial intelligence and lots of other great stuff as well. He's a great raconteur and a great guy to chat to. We met up in Kinsale in September at the Kinsale Sharks Festival. So without further ado, we're going to fade in to Ben Jones.
No one really knows an awful lot about. It's called blockchain.
We're also going to talk about what Ben does and has done in his life and how he ended up being here. So I'm welcoming Ben Jones. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, very well. Very happy to be here.
Ever been on a podcast before?
Do you know what? I haven't, no. So it's my first time. But I've always believed never say no to anything.
Very good. First question for you, Bull in a China Shop. Where does that name come from?
It's basically me. I started my career, one of my places was KPMG. And
really?
So yeah, it was a deep kind of grounding.
You've come the other way. Everyone's going that way now, and you've come from there.
I started there, but I was like the black sheep in many ways. I always used to turn up in jeans and a t-shirt, and it was I wasn't never conformed in anything that I did. So
KPMG, a huge global accountancy firm. How did you end up there?
Yeah, well, they had a consulting arm. They were in the world of innovation, a little bit like an agency, I suppose. And so I joined them for that. And we had a phenomenal level of fun. And so we were using the latest and greatest technologies from companies like Microsoft. No one had ever seen them before. So I joined it for that. But as I say, I was the bull in the China Shop. I was the one who would turn up in my jeans and t-shirt when everyone else was wearing their blue-collared shirts.
Yeah.
And so,
were you a bull in the China Shop when you were a kid? Where were you growing up? Where were you born? What was your background?
My background was my father left my mother when I was 6 weeks old.
Oh my God.
She says, yeah, thanks, Dad. Yeah, cheers, thanks.
Did you ever see him again?
Oh no, I do. Yeah, he's good friends now. And that's in fact
an awkward meeting when you were able to go, hey Dad, what was that all about?
I know, yeah, you never really. So you're like, yeah, cheers, thanks, Dad. Was I really that much of an ugly baby? I'm not even that.
That's
do you know
terrible.
What? He even built a wall in between the house because he was a builder.
Yeah.
And he built a wall in between the house and so my mum and him could share the house. And so he didn't throw her out or all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so that was a weird one.
Where was this? Where were you born?
Born in Essex. I'm an Essex boy at heart. 5 brothers, so one of 6. So you have to be a bit of a bull in the China Shop to stand out with. You've got 6 brothers.
Where did you come in the pecking order?
I was second oldest. It wasn't too bad. Yeah,
sort of thing.
Yeah, maybe. I want to be seen. But my old man, my stepdad, my real dad, he gave me a wonderful opportunity to become a ski racer of all things.
Really?
So I skied for England. Yeah, when I was a kid. Yeah.
Franz Klammerish downhill.
Yeah, I met Franz Klammer.
Yeah,
I did meet Franz Klammer. He trained me. Yeah, he trained me in Beckton Alps.
One of the things about sport was at the time
Love it.
We watched everything that was on. So we were big into snooker, ski Sunday,
all the time.
And now there's just so much sport that it's overkill. It's a bit like life.
Anyway, so I came from that. I fell over. What that made me learn, actually, it wasn't about your skill. It was about your tenacity to just get stuff done. And so when I fell over, I lost all my sponsorship. My old man went bust, so he was the funder. It's quite expensive sport.
Fell over, meaning accident?
Yeah, literally just fell over, hurt my knee for a while. So I was out, so I lost all my sponsorship. And through that, I had a choice. I could use a Saturday job to buy my wax, my ski wax, and whatever he needed. My old man would have used that to get me from race to race in England when you're racing in England on the dry slopes. And I didn't.
Why didn't you?
Because I don't think I had the tenacity to push through it in that particular time. Or, the difference is with anything in life, it's about how much you're prepared to want it and get it. And great ideas with tenacity can become phenomenal things that we all live and breathe. And so it was a bit like computer studies. I did eventually I needed a fallback plan, and that's how I got into machines, because I was good at skiing somehow, but I was also quite good at computers, which is weird things they shouldn't really go together.
And so I did at skiing video games.
No, I never tried one. They've never been any good. They've never been any good. So
Clamor 2018.
It's going to bring it back. Yeah. Who's Lindsay Vonn?
Lindsay Vonn, Tiger Woods.
She's a machine. She is. She's the best skier ever to be on this planet.
Yeah. So skiing will teach you fearlessness.
Oh, totally. Oh, fuck me. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
From a very early age.
Yeah.
I'll take this on, I'll have a go. I might fall, but I might not.
Yeah. It's a lovely analogy of life. I think sport generally is, but skiing,
particularly,
you've got to go down some steep things. And when you're a kid and your little legs are like, knocking, and you've got little, especially my legs. They're not skiers' legs.
Yeah.
They're little skinny. I think that you're right. It's you're standing in that gate and you're going to go down a downhill in this catsuit. And then nothing else protects you other than your fearlessness to stay on your skis and go around a corner at 70, 80, nearly 90 miles an hour sometimes. Yeah, you're right.
Do you have a happy childhood?
Yeah, very much so. Love my child. Love my brothers. My mum and my stepdad were amazing for me. My old man was really good, even though, I mean, in many ways, you think about him leaving me at 6 weeks old. You think about that. In actual fact, that's actually brave, weirdly, to have the balls to get up and go, do you know what, this is just not for me.
Well, I know someone who did that, and the opprobrium that they get, not just from everybody, from parents, grandparents, from male friends. You can't fucking walk out on a woman after just giving her a baby. From all her friends. I mean, I'm sure he was kind of ostracised.
Yeah, he probably was.
The board,
He probably was, but it is actually quite brave, oddly. What about you?
Well, my family upbringing was very middle class Dublin, but I was a black sheep in the family. I was the eldest, and things. My childhood wasn't that happy.
Why
Felt
not?
very independent. Well, just my parents were. I was a difficult kid. Today I would have been labelled hyperactive and probably
Right, the old ADD.
Yeah, exactly. But I felt very independent from about 7 years old, where I said it's me against the world. I didn't feel like my family had my back. They were pushing me to do certain things that I felt that was not the way I wanted to go. And weirdly, as you said about your situation, that's what made me. If I changed it to either me being more a compliant child or doing what I was told, I would have gone on a very different path, and I probably would have been an engineer. My father was a very famous ventriloquist.
No way.
Believe, yeah.
What a random background that
And
is.
he was.
Can you do it?
He was a Gaelic-speaking ventriloquist.
Can you do it?
A little bit.
The rest of the
You can see our lips aren't moving at the moment.
Where's the podcast?
He had
We
his-
don't know this.
He had his own show for 10, 15 years on Irish television. He opened Irish television, so he was quite famous. So I get a bit of my acting and voiceover and stuff like that, and writing, I suppose, creativity from them. But I really ploughed a very lonely and individualistic furrow all through my life. But yeah, this is the first time someone asked me about all that stuff. You got to computers. What did you do in college?
Computer studies.
Right.
So I went. I did that. Did it at GCC amongst all the other ones, and I was good at it so naturally. So I just carried on doing it, and I went to university to do it as well. I worked on my old man's new business, which was making signs, and I found myself in this little teeny room painting signs with very high toxic paint and probably flammable paint.
Cancerous.
And I thought, what am I fucking doing in my life? So and that was my kind of go to university and do it, and I did it right. I got a party man's degree. That's how I fell into machines, really.
So you were learning coding and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's it. I joined a company called, little teeny company called Global Financial Systems, and I've still to this day never realised at the time, retrospect is always a wonderful thing, I never realised at the time how amazingly good the people that I was surrounded with, all they were trying to do banking on machines which were running Microsoft code. And they were doing this thing which is called grid computing, using other machines when they're dormant to be able to spark up, run some transactions, and then go dormant again. It was groundbreaking stuff.
Where are we? 90s, early 90s?
This is mid 90s, yeah.
Mid 90s,
Yeah, and so I
Global Financial Systems sounds like a sort of corporation that would be in Superman or something.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Kind of a lazy name, not like Bull.
I mean, I love Malcolm Carroll and Ian Leeper. They are definitely not part of Superman theory.
Yeah.
I mean, they literally were. Ian Leeper, bless him, he had a proper stutter. Amazing mind. And Malcolm Carroll was just the shiny man who could sell it to banks. He was like, "Hello." He actually asked me one day to download the internet. He said, "I
broke the internet."
It was when the internet was just starting. Yeah. And he said to me, he goes, "Ben," he was the site salesman. He said, "Ben, I literally talk like this. They're very posh." Yeah. And he went, "Ben, I'm going away for the weekend. I was wondering, because this internet thing seems to be taking off, could you download the internet, put it on a disc for me, and I can take it and look at it over the weekend?"
Read it by the beach.
It doesn't really work like that, Malcolm. No. Maybe it's all in the name.
But gee, I remember, we get now into the whole blockchain thing, but I remember when the internet, because you start your story about what blockchain is with the fact that the internet failed.
Yeah.
And I get you on that. And I remember when the internet came out. Actually, one story I had is I moved to Singapore from Dublin in '96. They had a camera looking down the main thoroughfare of Dublin, O'Connell Street. And it was really shit. It was a camera and you could see the buses just...
the judgery thing. This is really great
live.
live.
Sit there in Singapore looking at Dublin going, oh. Where will this go?
And it was amazing, wasn't it? It was connection. Yeah, it was amazing. You were on the other end of there and you could say, and how happy did it make you feel?
It was great. Let's segue in there. Why did the internet fail us?
I mean, the internet was a phenomenal technology, military technology, which was invented by the Americans, and it really was used to communicate across the world. And then Tim Berners-Lee came along and thought, well, let's open that world for the world, because what he believed in is that there was too many middlemen, there was too much friction, there was too much, the world was too slow. The decentralized approach, his vision, it had kind of an altruism within the middle of that. And what's happened is that the middlemen came in massively and have really disrupted that. They've made their coin. They have owned the internet in many ways, and the Googles, the Facebooks and wider. You've become a product of Facebook. You've become a product of Google. And when Google's making $32 per person per year for their service.
I
mean, it's massive, isn't it? It's massive. Imagine that. Would you
Facebook's
pay
making $21 off.
$21? Yeah, roughly $21. And whatever the truth actually is, we don't know. It's a closed world. It's a closed domain. And all I do know, and everyone does know now, and it's becoming apparent with the Cambridge Analytica thing when they're sucking 87 million user profiles, of 98 data points about you. When Mashable posted "On my way to steal your privacy," with Mark Zuckerberg, that's what's happened. Giving us a wonderful
business.
Got hijacked. Exactly, perfect way of saying it.
Because I remember when Google came out, Sergey and Yaman had this "the don't do evil" thing that they said, and I was like, "Oh, you're all right, Google. You're never going to do evil." It was kind of quaint. I was thinking, you'll be grand, you'll be fine, you're nice, you're colourful, you help.
Altruistic.
They knew then.
And so did Zuckerberg. They literally put it on. We're not going to do evil, but we fucking well are.
Let me give you a contrarian point of view. I accept the fact that, and I know that I'm giving these companies a lot of access to my life. They do sell my information and my demographics to other companies to advertise, much like a television station used to do, and would have done to that extent if they had the data available to them.
Yeah.
In return, I get, in Facebook's example, access to all of my friends globally, what they're up to, which to me seems worth $21 a year. Just look at it another way.
No, I'm with you. Yeah.
Google, I have the entire information of all the world in my pocket, in my phone, and I use Google to try to get to that.
Yep.
Things like Google Maps. If we brought someone from 1970 to today, they would be going, Google Maps would be one of the, no more of those.
No, totally. Although I do like a paper map.
And Wikipedia. I grew up in an era where people went around selling door-to-door Encyclopedia Britannicas.
Yep.
Huge expense to poor families, which was also evil. Are they really doing evil?
So, I mean, I fundamentally agree. The service that you get and the experience that you get, potentially for the core service that they offer you, is brilliant. But when you're manipulating democracy, knowingly,
yes,
I think that's fundamentally wrong.
Okay, so there's the dark side of the web. Cambridge, that whole WikiLeaks thing, the Russian interference in the election, which is still an ongoing investigation, but everyone's saying it happened. And, there's pornography, child pornography, it's all this dark side of the web, which is evil.
Yep.
But the core part of the web, I mean, first of all, we would never get rid of the web.
No way.
We think it's progress.
No way.
I think it is progress, right?
Yeah.
So let's frame it now with let's start bringing blockchain into this and how you believe that is the game changer that's going to get us back on track. Is that fair? It's going to get us back on track.
I think it's back on track. I think it's the second bite of an apple. One was a bit, was a juicy apple, promised lots of dreams, and has become a little bit poisoned. And that's why I used the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs analogy.
Let's go with the Snow White.
Well, she basically, you knew that you're getting a free apple, and she was getting a free apple from a particular person, which happened to be a witch.
It was an apple.
It wasn't.
We
don't know how bad Apple are. I don't think they are, but I mean, you never know. They're focused on hardware, but then again, they've got phenomenal ecosystems. And let's go back to the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs initially, right? So, Snow White and the Seven, she had 7 people protecting her, called the dwarfs. If you look at the old world, the witch came to her door with the dwarfs were mining for the day. Ironically, mining. We'll come to blockchain mining in a minute. They were mining very valuable things, actually. An honest and open network of miners mining diamonds, very valuable things.
Yeah.
Without them, the transaction was happening between her and the witch, the promise of this apple. So she ate the apple and she fell asleep. And
she was innocent and naive.
She was innocent, naive, and
kind.
And she trusted. She trusted. Wonderful trust thing. And she trusted, she ate the apple, and that was it. But if you forward wine and you consider the blockchain being those dwarfs, a protection network in many ways, a consensus network, that's the way transactions happen. The transaction goes between A to B. Once it's been committed, the consensus network, there's the blockchain, says, okay, I'm happy with that, I agree with that, I agree that that's a transaction which can happen or cannot happen.
Yeah.
And so it's the majority, it becomes a consensus network, and decisions are made in that way, consensus. If the dwarfs were there, and if that was the blockchain, Snow White wouldn't have eaten the apple, because the blockchain, the dwarfs would have gone, no, it's a bad apple. And so if you make it a little bit more tangible, what that really means is the blockchain, all it is code. It's a bit of code, a bit of genius in many ways. If you took an artist's picture, the blockchain is a piece of code which has that level of intelligence, that level of storytelling within it. It's just a beautiful piece of mathematics and code. That's all it is.
Importantly, it's not a person. It's
not
a bunch of people.
Yeah, well, we don't know. Satoshi Nakamoto, and there's so many different theories on Satoshi Nakamoto. And
He's the guy who's allegedly
came up with Bitcoin, right?
Yeah, well, no, blockchain.
Blockchain. Okay. Explain the difference now for people between Bitcoin and blockchain.
Well, blockchain is the network. It's a bit like the internet was for email. Right. Blockchain is this network which sits on the internet. People can download the code and put it on their own machines, and it can just run freely. And it's just this verification system in many ways. Bitcoin is just basically an asset which is traded across the blockchain as a digital currency. And coins and tokens are on the blockchain. Does that make any sense at all? And
should I have blockchain on my computer now?
No, because your machine's not powerful enough. Because the benefit of having blockchain on your machine is that potentially, as you are part of the network and you verify a transaction, what happens then is that the blockchain says, well, okay, solve this very hard problem, and with that, you can add this part of the transaction to the chain, right? And you get to do that. And in return for that, you get a reward. And in terms of the blockchain, the Bitcoin blockchain, you get a Bitcoin or part of a Bitcoin, which is valuable, right?
Does it come to a time when every one of us in our Apple Macs and on our phones will have a blockchain thing built in to protect us? Or is that am I misreading this?
Well, I mean, yeah, you could have that, and you could.
I mean, is it silently protecting me if I?
Not yet.
No, I have to.
Yeah, you have to use a service which uses the blockchain, and any type of business can rethink themselves to be an open, altruistic, transparent business, which is what we thought businesses were, but really probably weren't telling quite all the truths. And they can apply themselves onto the blockchain, and that's what it gives you. It's so open, it's so transparent, and it's immutable. You can never change it. There's a lot of manipulation in the middleman kind of world. Do you really know where your money goes when you put £10 into a bank? No. You haven't got a clue, right? And if you could actually track it all the way through, you'll see where it's truly gone. I mean, it's gone to bizarre places. And not that you want to know all of that, but that safeguard that you know that is on the blockchain, it gives you that full traceability of anything. So when you donate to charity, and that charity decides that they're going to put their business, their charity on the blockchain, you know exactly where the money goes, which middlemen it goes through, how much is sliced off before it gets to the end result. And if you actually truly knew that in the world of a lot of charities, you probably wouldn't donate. So you put it in the blockchain, it's kind of, in many ways, it doesn't have to have all the middlemen, it just goes onto the blockchain and you know where it's gone.
So blockchain as a concept is a new dimension to the internet that's more transparent, trustworthy, and keeps people from doing wrong?
Yes, exactly right. I mean, you can't really hack the blockchain because you have to hack 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million nodes, these miners, which are out there doing all that hard work. One person can manipulate their records in there, potentially, if they get hacked, which is very hard to hack as well because the level of cryptography on the blockchain is so high. But if they did, they could hack it. If they get intercepted, they could, the message gets intercepted. That's another way of hacking it.
Right.
But it's one person, one machine. You've compromised one machine, which means that all the other millions go, well, no, the answer's A, and he's saying B. You're going to reject B because he's not part of it.
So will blockchain eventually, paint me two pictures. One, how it might fix our fake news problem, and two, how it might change how we deal with Facebook.
Oh, they're good questions. So I think with fake news, it's about the origin of that news or where that image originally came from. I mean, if you take Kodak, they've created something called Kodak One, and they have a Kodak coin.
Ironically, Kodak are making a comeback.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are. And through this process,
after dropping the ball big time,
totally, right? Totally. It's a lovely story, right, of redemption. And so that you know where that photo has come from and who it came from, most importantly, so that you can work out whether you trust that person because the blockchain is just open and transparent and wider. So the source of news, the source of imagery can be seen and traced. Yeah. And that's really important. So that's the way fake news potentially can be not fake news, because we can see where it's gone through, the provenance of a piece of editorial or provenance of an image. Very important. We don't know where anything comes from at the moment. When it comes to Facebook, I mean, Facebook have their own problem because they're such a closed world. They were always famed for being this closed world when you wanted to build stuff. So my answer is I don't know, because until they open up. Yeah. But I mean, I don't know whether I need Facebook in my life. I don't use Facebook hardly at all anymore.
So let's hear the anti-Facebook. Why did you?
I'm not anti-Facebook.
No, but sorry.
Why did I come off it?
Because one of the other issues that we're having, which we may touch on, may not, given where we're going, is this idea that technology is utterly swamping us with too much data.
Yep.
I can't seem to read a fucking book, even though I'm retired.
Totally.
I'm retired. I should be able to read 8 books a week.
Yep.
And I can't read one in 6 months.
Because you're distracted.
I'm distracted. Yeah. I'm on everything. I read the newspaper every day.
And that is why I took off Facebook. And that is why I took off Instagram, because I sat there just dwelling, faffing around on fucking pointless stuff. which gives me these kind of really negative vibes of, when subsequently psychologists have looked at all the dopamine going around our body, and it's a bit like drug addiction in many ways, these social feeds, and it's actually designed to do that as well, hold stuff away and then give it, I mean, it's just like, it's wrong. And so,
do you think it will go away? Do you think Facebook will not be around in 10 years' time?
I don't need it. I can pick up the phone to my friends. My job is to look at emerging technology and consume myself with it, and I did, and I love Facebook. Don't worry, I don't dislike Facebook. I don't dislike Google. I don't like any of that.
But it's what it's doing to you.
It's about what it's done to me.
I like cigarettes.
Yeah, there you go. Same thing. Facebook.
I had a mad moment.
There will be programs in the future when you look at, the social network came out. It was all starting to be good. There will be programs in the future, I'm sure, when the truth of the Cambridge Analytica stories and all this stuff comes out. It'll be the opposite of that, and be like, fucking, they were doing that to us. Right. Oh my god!
So it could come to them.
And it could come to them. But all they need to do, redemption. It could be, all they need to do is put your profile on the blockchain, give you back your data, and then they become this kind of altruistic framework which is connecting you to friends that you love and people that you adore. And do you know what I mean? That's so, sorry to interrupt, but I do think that I get excited about it because
I had a mad, weird one of those woo moments the other day when I picked up my phone.
How does woo go? When you're having it.
I picked up my phone and I wanted to make a phone call. And I couldn't work out where the app was. I said, what's the app for making a phone call?
I don't even know.
I didn't know where it was. I was like trying to find it.
Because it's a little machine, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mate, imagine when you speak to people again. But they call it a glassless future.
A what future?
Glassless future.
Explain that.
Which is basically less interfaces in your face at all times. And I did, my job in Bull in the China Shop is to focus on 7 years away for organisations. Knowing the cultural trends and changing consumer behaviour, the brand promise of these companies, which are probably not delivering on those promises anymore, but then how emerging technology will affect them in every single way. And disruption is happening, I hate the word disruption, but it is happening quicker and faster than ever before. And so we help companies do just that. Glassless Future is an angle which is about, you'll have an earpiece in your ear helping you, and you'll talk to your earpiece. I was with the founder.
We're Minority Report land now, are we?
Well, not really, because I was with the founder of Evie. You know Evie? Evie is now Alexa. All right, so he's born in Cambridge. He's a Cambridge English born thing, right? Yeah. Did you not know that? God,
no.
you're not literally.
I'm going to be honest here. Most of my listeners probably agree.
I didn't know either, but I was with him, and he was saying that there'll be a future. We'll just expect to speak to everything. Oven turn on, or just turn on the oven. I don't quite agree with that. What I do agree with is that having a piece of glass, having to get your phone out to make a phone call, or when you have a small earpiece or
we have a chip in our brain.
Do you know what I was?
Silicon chip inside her head.
I know someone who does that.
So we will.
They're doing that right now, right here, right now. And I said to him, this is over in a special secret conference over in LA, 2 days solidly going, what the fuck?
Mind blown.
Yeah, totally mind blowing. And there was one person, a professor, putting chips into people's brains. And what they found was that our bodies reject lots of things. The brain harnesses things. So put the chip in the brain, and the brain started to work out what to do with the chip.
Wow.
Because the brain's only electrical at the end of the day. It's doing some stuff, whatever. That's a neuroscience approach to the brain. It's doing some stuff. And
really don't know what it's doing.
we don't know what it's doing. But anyway, the point is that they started to compute to the cloud. And the cloud started giving stuff back. And there was a question from the audience: will this happen in the near future at all? And he said, I would predict in the next 4 years, this was last year actually, so the next 3 years, that someone in Silicon Valley will have this done. And when you're sitting in an interview or in a conversation, or you're against someone in another business, and they've got the chip in their brain, and they're ahead of you, would you put a chip in your brain? Yeah. You probably would,
Welcome to the Tour de France.
Yeah, exactly right. Just.
Also, the vanity. I mean, would you go to Mars?
What for?
No, if there was a manned mission to Mars, would you go on it?
No.
I would, you see.
Why?
Because my view on the nihility, if that's such a word, of life.
I like that word. I don't know if it means anything, but I love the word.
I just invented it.
Give me an angle on what it actually is meant to mean.
It's like nihilism. The nihility of life. I just made up.
That's good. All right, even if it's not, we should put it into a dictionary.
As one of my Irish friends said, the nihility of life is what we're combating. No, if you think about the
Irish dictionary rather than the English Oxford dictionary. Yeah, we'll go for that.
The man or woman or thing of the last century. If you were looking at the Time magazine, who would be on? You would have things like Hitler, you would have Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, you would have Pele, Muhammad Ali. The one person I would put there, if you took someone from 1,000 years in the future, would be Neil Armstrong. Neil Armstrong is just a guy who stood on the moon, but the combination of the... Did he? Yeah, he did. They played golf on the moon, for fuck's sake. The whole moon landing thing is they keep forgetting that they went back 7 times afterwards.
Yeah,
drove around in
you're
buggies
right,
and everything. You know, that seems to be completely forgotten. But you know, he represents mankind's greatest achievement, and 1,000 years in the past. If you brought someone from 1,000 years past and said, you know what we did? We stepped on that. They go, fuck off, you did, right? And the guy 1,000 years in the future would go, was that when that happened? And what I mean about the chip thing, bringing it back to the point, is to be the first guy to have the chip in your head, you know, and be able to beat fucking computers at Jeopardy or chess or whatever it allows you to do. Puts you in history.
It does.
Jesus-like.
It does, but I mean, it's a bit... I don't know.
He existed.
Yeah, exactly.
He walked on the moon,
complete conspiracy. Where is the world flat? The answer is I don't know. It looks quite round to me when I'm up
there. Could you download
the
internet for me?
Download the internet. So would I have a chip in my brain? I would have a chip in my brain. Would I go to Mars? No, because of the fact that you don't come back.
Yeah. No, it would be a one-way ticket.
And it would be a one-way ticket, and I think that's the sad thing. Would I want to
you'd see starbursts over Orion? I mean,
this is true. It'd be quite cool.
Open the door.
But you've got no one to tell. I don't know. That's when it comes to social currency. Maybe Facebook is doing the right thing after all. But I don't know. I think what I would like to do when it comes to the chip in the brain, come back to that, is that you'd have it. But it's a bit like having a... You know when you're a boy racer and you're a young kid?
No.
Well,
yeah,
no. I'm an Essex boy, so okay. I
didn't have a fast right.
Did you? You did, yeah. I didn't have an MG Metro Turbo.
1.1 Fiesta.
You did you?
Yeah. Which was black and had no profile car.
Yes,
but was only a 1.1 litre car.
Completely ruined the whole face of the car. But so I would have a normal car. What I've always wanted is a normal car, normal looking car, massive, great engine. And I think that the chip in the brain is that moment where you can do it with intelligence. You sit there, and anyone can ask you any question. Oh, well, such and such. And the answer is blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But no one knows.
Pub quizzes are a thing of the past.
Exactly. It's easy. You don't have to get your phone out and cheat anymore.
It's like the one team that got 99, missed one question, actually wins.
That'd be true. Because then something happened, the internet went down. Oh no, the internet's gone down for me.
We end up in robot overlord territory and combined human-robot species, and eventually probably the human bit, who needs it, bag of water, bones, nitrogen, carbon, whatever, you know, and off we go. Do you believe that's going to happen?
A good friend of mine, Sean Gawley, he was just at the World Economic Forum talking about artificial intelligence. His businesses are all in AI. And he said the human race either faces extinction or immortality through artificial intelligence. The machines will become so much more powerful. The algorithms will start to code themselves, and they already are. And maybe the blockchain, weirdly, is probably an altruistic framework which allows us to progress with a bit of altruism in the middle of it. He ends it with the best place to be is when machines and humans work together. Augmented intelligence is the best way forward. And would you not have that? I would definitely have something like that. I would definitely. You've just got to harness the.
As long as it's benign, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah,
and you know, we haven't even talked about how it applies to weapons and war.
Oh God, yeah,
that starts getting quite scary.
Dark place. Yeah.
One of the questions I want to ask you about blockchain, because you paint this nice picture of it as being a honourable, purpose-driven, real, altruistic, fair system that's going to police the internet for us. The idea that we don't know who's behind blockchain has to be a concern. In the same way that Facebook is a concern, in the same way that Google is a concern.
So the answer is 100% yes. It's 9 years old. And as I said, it's created as a piece of genius. But when you don't know who's created that, it could be the ultimate backdoor to... If you were really clever as a terrorist, then you could create a piece of code, the blockchain, where everyone's building this altruistic framework on it, and it could have the ultimate backdoor. So the difference is that you have to take down every single node on who's running that machine. Yeah. To take it down and do the wrong thing. And if the code is open and it's over across a million machines, then you can see what's really happening within that code within reason.
Yeah. So we are assuming though that every single machine is not jury rigged, which is what your ultimate backdoor is about. Like you could actually have what ostensibly looks like a very fair, impenetrable because of the power of numbers.
Exactly right.
But then suddenly the whole thing is
Exactly right. Someone actually works out how to
behind the curtain.
hack. Exactly right. I was going to use the analogy. The man behind the curtain. I'm not quite sure who he is. The Wizard of Oz analogy is a great analogy.
One of the things I would say as to why it might be benign, you're convinced it's benign, and I get that, is that Facebook and Google have not outed it.
No.
It is quite a threat to their business, but they would be going, this is all, if Donald Trump ran Facebook, this blockchain is all fake news.
Fake
bullshit,
news,
right?
yeah, that's right, yeah. And they have the power to do that.
But they'd also do it as a great stunt to say, we are protectors, these guys are just bullshit. So you have things like 4chan, WikiLeaks, and there's lots of this out there, and hackers, I don't even know what a fucking hacker is. I don't even know.
That's the guy with the mask.
Yeah. That is also dark web. I mean, the WikiLeaks thing has 50% of people who say it's great and 50%. Where do you stand with WikiLeaks? Is it a good thing for society or a bad thing?
I don't know, because you don't want to know all the truth, because not knowing all the truth is actually quite a good thing.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think that this is such corruptness in government. We all know it's corrupt.
Yeah.
It truly is.
But you also never get rid of corruption until it's outed.
And you don't, exactly. And that's why WikiLeaks, for me personally, to answer the question, I think it's a service of good. It opens up these massive holes. It keeps them dropping its bombs everywhere, as it were. But they're bombs for good in many ways. People have had enough about being the lemmings. You know, Lemmings, the game Lemmings, who you just follow. Hello, what are you doing? That was a lemming.
They never actually run off a cliff.
Do they not?
It's like the ostrich head in the sand doesn't happen.
Doesn't really happen.
Frog doesn't burn in the water.
The fake news. So you've heard that's all fake news.
Adages.
No, what you've heard really is fake news. Now, who's true? You or me?
Old wives'
You or me?
tales.
You've been told that it's fake, but I'm telling you that what you've been told is fake. And I think we've got into that. We've actually got into that world of like what is true, what's not. WikiLeaks does a service in many ways. Everyone's fed up with being lied to. We all know we're being lied to of some type, being manipulated in some way. So maybe.
But
WikiLeaks,
to come full circle to our conversation, Tim Berners-Lee is back. I was intrigued about that. Why is he? What's he doing?
The Berners-Lee is back thing.
Tim Berners-Lee, the guy who invented the World Wide Web, we talked about at the top of the podcast.
Yeah, he has come back because of the fact that he's upset with the way that the world has used the internet. And he is trying to give the power of your data back to you, to recoup your data, to be able to be in control of your own privacy, which is human right in liberation is privacy. He's trying to do that through a project called Solid, and he's working with some of the best people in the world to do that. There's a huge amount of people looking at the blockchain, how that impacts their own business. And I'm working with one very large $220 billion market cap business, and they're a telecommunications company, and they have the power to really understand what's going on in your home in every single way, on your phone in every single way, so they really truly know you, and they're going to put that profile onto the blockchain. They're going to give you power back to you. Quite a lovely trust relationship.
Back again to the start of the podcast, Google should be paying me $32, Facebook should be paying me $21, and I should at least, if I'm giving them this information, get paid by them for my information.
Ironically, yes. Yeah, if they turn around and said, we're going to pay for our fuel. Their fuel is your data. Our data is powering their engines. And I think that there is a small value exchange, 100% of the services they offer, because they're cool and they're great and it's fun. I don't use Facebook, like I said, but very much. I'll always have a little peek, and that's valuable to me. To be in connection to all my friends is important, but it's got a little bit too far.
It would be very good for crime prevention and the police if there was a situation where everybody said, yeah, whatever, pay me $100, and if you want to find your criminals, go straight to the people who said, no, under no circumstances are you allowed to have my stuff, and they're probably in there somewhere.
Totally right.
I asked this question of everybody, which we finished on this.
By the way, that's a moonshot. I tried to do this moonshot for Google. A moonshot is their special projects
Mars
area.
We've done them,
We'll go for them. Yes, good point. Yeah, but it's called moonshots, and they work in a special project. Google X, I think it's called.
Bearded guy runs it.
That's right, yeah, AstroTele, yeah. And it was rejected. But I believed that with all the data that we have about people, and we take biometric data on top of that too, which you're giving, because if you have an Apple Watch, you're giving biometric data all the time. And when those sensors get a little bit more intelligent, we can actually track people's intentions before it happens, the minority report in every single way. And then if you take the world's data and you start to understand that, and then you add on social layers as well in terms of what's happened socially to them and the context of where they really are in their own head, and then you add a kind of another hook, which is maybe what's happened in the news or what the weather happens. I mean, it's a bad day, or I'm going to go and do something bad. Whatever it is, I don't know. But my theory was that minority report of like predicting crime could possibly happen.
Before it
happens.
place.
And it kind of could with all that data, but unfortunately they rejected it.
Well, Google, if you're listening to this and it's been made somewhere else in the future, you had your chance.
Yes, that's the IP. Mark
Penny
Jones.
was listening to a Pint with Seaniebee episode number 113 or whatever this one is in 2050, and this thing has happened. One of the questions before we go, I ask everybody, and I'm really intrigued what your answer is to this. I always ask people what they would say to their younger self. So maybe the guy who just banged out of skiing, what would you say to him?
I said it to myself on a run this morning, and I actually said it out loud, really weird. If someone had seen me
Scaring
running...
the children again?
Yeah, I was just running. It was dark. It was pitch black this morning when I was running. I was looking at the ocean in Kinsale, perfectly smooth, and smooth water's fine. It's easy to paddle through, it's easy to drive through. But when the water's rough, it's hard, but it's not going to stay rough forever. And I think the answer to that question is you just keep on trying, and you know that smooth water's going to come. And that point being in that analogy is the fact that life is fucking hard sometimes.
Yeah.
When you're on your own, you set your own little business up. It's bloody hard.
Yeah.
You know, however cool it sounds.
I never bothered doing because I don't think I would have been able to.
But it's hard.
Seriously,
Yeah, but it's really hard, and you constantly get turned down, or you don't. Whatever it is, it's that journey, and it's that rough water. But some days it's going to get smooth. And so my answer to myself, tell myself, is just never give up.
Brilliant. I just met you, and I think that was a great interview because I can actually see what I said at the start about the fearlessness that you learned as a young skier. You still have. That would be the thing I would see in you that's really important, and a lot of people actually don't have. Thanks a million for being on a Pint with Seaniebee. The other thing to people like you, I also say, is don't do evil. And most of us who are sitting there gobbing data into Facebook and all these places every day assume there are people like you out there who are thinking a bit more about it than we are and are going to do something about it and keep on the right side of it. Thanks a million.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Enjoy it?
It was brilliant. It really was phenomenal. I
It'll be
want
good.
to know what your answer was. So it's a hard thing to think about. I mean, what would you say to your younger self? What would you have all the journeys you've been through, and it was a hard upbringing.
Yeah.
What would you do?
I would say to my younger self, you're right.
And what does that mean?
That
You were
means
right all
that,
that time?
there was a time in my life where I felt right and I felt like I needed to resist and I needed to plough my own path, and I was independent and I was scared that I was doing the wrong thing and I was being disobedient and not doing what I was told, but I was right.
Belief.
I actually defend my younger self a lot because I don't want to dishonor the stuff that was going on, that was affecting me, and that I was trying as a young fella to, you know, your idea about the ocean. It was very choppy, and I kept swimming the right way, and I would say to myself, and also, it worked.
There you go.
You
That's
know,
it.
so-
It's just that tenacity
I don't know,
to plough through.
I've asked you that about 600 times, and each and every time you answer the same way.
There you
That's
go.
like that.
So that's it. It's
Exactly
honest.
the same answer,
Okay.
give or take a word.